This is a Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, and for the longest time it has been my absolute dream vehicle. Comparing that to my first ever car, a 1994 Nissan Micra, it really is chalk and cheese. But that's not to say that the Micra didn't have its benefits, especially as I cruised the mean streets of Tullamore blasting 50 Cent and Incubus, feeling that first found taste of freedom. Then, a few years ago, I decided to get my motorcycle license, and with motorbikes being so much cheaper than cars, I figured that my dream bike, an R1250 GS, might just actually be within reach. But when I went in to talk to the salesman, he actually steered me away from it and instead recommended that I get this, an F750 GS. The reason why he made this recommendation is because it would fit my riding style and abilities so much better. Now, 18 months later, I have to say he was dead on the money. But that has left me with one lasting question. Do we even know what we want to make us happy? So, there's this concept called hedonic adaptation, and essentially all that is a fancy term to describe the fact that no matter what happens in our lives, be that positive or negative, we tend to return to a fairly typical baseline level of happiness. Here's what I mean. Let's say that this line here represents your standard day-to-day level of happiness. Over time, things will happen in our lives that cause us to actually go beyond that. Let's say getting a new job or buying a new car. And so what that might look like is that over time, when we get that new car, our happiness goes up as we expect to get the car and eventually get the keys. But in the weeks that follow, that level of happiness will actually start to drop off, and we have a tendency to return back to that baseline level. Similarly enough, this also works for negative things too. So let's say, for example, you're going through a breakup or you lose your job, you're going to hit a new low. And as time continues on and the dust starts to settle, we will actually tend to also come back up to this base level of happiness again as we start to get over this sad thing that's happened to us. Hedonic adaptation has given rise to a colloquial term called the hedonic treadmill. And I want you to think back to the first time you got a smartphone with all the bells and whistles that dumb phones never had, and I want you to remember the excitement that came along with that. But fast forward 12 months and that excitement starts to fade. But there's a new model that's come out and you reckon that buying that new model will get that excitement back again, and so you drop your deposit on a pre-order. When it finally arrives, yes, you get that hit of excitement, but it doesn't quite live up to the same as it did with the first phone. So then a few months later you try rounding out this problem by buying either a smartwatch or AirPods or whatever it might be, only to find that the highs just keep getting lower and lower and lower. And that's why it's called the hedonic treadmill. We're chasing this high that never comes because we always end up right back where we started. If we could move back to cars for a second, I want you to think about some of your favourite memories cruising around. It could be maybe your first date with somebody new, or going on a road trip with some friends from college, or even the first time you got behind the wheel all by yourself. If you think back to those memories, how many of them are enjoyable because the car was cool? I mean, for myself, some of my favourite memories are in cars specifically that weren't cool. I can still so vividly remember a particular Saturday morning in the summer of 2007. It was about 9:30 a.m. in the morning and I had just finished up in the gym. I got into my old banged up Nissan Micra and can still remember the smell of the damp seats, the condensation in the windows, and having to manually wind down the window to be able to see out. And I was so happy driving from the gym that morning off to my girlfriend's house, which was 10 kilometers away. That memory is so important to me, not because of the car itself, but because of what the car represented. It was freedom. And that's why this bike, this non-dream bike, actually makes me so much happier. Because it suits my riding style and abilities, it allows me to create lasting memories which will make me happy from now and forevermore. If you're struggling to stay happy, ask yourself two questions. What memories do you want to create and what experiences you want to have? Because when you truly know the answers to those questions, you'll be better able to pick the tools to make it happen. Have a good week, folks. Peace.